All righty, ready to kick things off here today. We're going to give you guys a couple minutes to drop in. Those of you who have joined us before, we want to take some time, make sure everyone gets here, doesn't miss any of the important stuff. But while we're waiting, just so that you're not just sitting here staring at us, I'll do a little bit of housekeeping. And I've got a really important question to kick us off today. We were having some trouble earlier during the technical run through with our Q&A. So if someone could let us know in the chat, just give the Q&A a test, see if you can type in any kind of question there. And then if you're not able to, please let us know in the chat so we can kind of determine how we should handle questions today. If someone could check that out for us, we'd really appreciate it. While we're waiting on that, I will go ahead and just give an overview of what we're going to talk about today. So today's topic is navigating an omni-channel presence while maintaining a brand standard. Those of you who've joined us for webinars before, hello, Mark, thanks for joining us. Those of you who have joined us before, we do about 75% of the time, we do a very open AMA style presentation. So we're really lucky today that we have Ashton and Heather here. They've actually presented a deck for us, and they're going to walk you through some very tactical things for tackling this topic. So very big treat for us, excited to dive into it. I did see something pop up in the Q&A, so it looks like it is working. Very exciting.
Cool.
So good, we'll be able to move forward with that. And I think we're about 3 minutes in here now. Oh, South Florida. I used to live in Northeast Florida in St. Augustine, if you know it. Thank you, everyone who has joined us. So since the Q&A is working, last little bit of housekeeping we're going to do here. Questions go in the Q&A. Drop in your questions anytime throughout the presentation. We will be answering questions real time as they pertain to the presentation. We'll also leave some time at the end for any questions that may need to be handled at that point. If you just want to general chit chat with us, if you have a comment on someone else's question or answer, if you want to tell us where you're joining us from, because we always love to hear that, go ahead and drop that in the chat. Keep your eyes on the chat as well. We'll be dropping some important resources in there. And then at the end of the webinar, just remember to revisit that chat, because if you wanted any of those resources, they will go away when we close out of the webinar. So you want to make sure you have those links before we shut things down. And I think that is it. So without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you or let our panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into the presentation. So again, we've got Heather and Ashton here. They are from Identify Marketing, and they're going to walk us through navigating an omni-channel presence while maintaining a brand standard. Ashton, I'll throw it over to you first for introduction.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. I'm the CEO and co-founder of IDM. Heather and I have partnered together to offer paid and organic media management through Identify, with a big emphasis on influencer marketing. She'll talk a little bit more about that. But I'll pass it on to Heather here to introduce herself, and then I'll kind of talk about my experience and why we're even talking to you today.
Great. Thank you, Ashton. Hi, everybody. I'm Heather. Thank you, Jess, for having us here today. I'm so excited to be presenting with Ashton and sharing all the information we have about omni-channel presence and how to make it stronger and help all of you create more success. I am the director of influencer marketing with Identify, and I started out actually managing e-commerce brand social media, and quickly found myself in the niche of the wild west of influencer marketing, where there's a lot of unpredictability and still so much changing and growing and evolving in the creator commerce. So yeah, my background is in beauty and fashion. I've worked with luxury and high fashion brands, and I'm excited about this rapidly growing creator economy, and I'm really passionate about helping e-commerce brands use and utilize influencer marketing to expand their reach and to create more impact and engagement and driving sales. So I guess the key takeaways of this webinar is just, as a consumer, we're really likely to attach to a brand that we feel connected to. So I think what Ashton is going to talk about today more is about identifying what is omnichannel presence and omnichannel marketing, and hopefully it will spark some ideas for you on how you can create a stronger strategy. So I think I will leave it there. And please go ahead and ask any questions like Jess said, and I will take them and interrupt Ashton and talk about some things about influencer marketing as we go. Okay, thanks.
Thank you both.
Awesome.
Yeah, you guys are making it so easy for me today. Usually I have to talk most of the time, and I didn't even have to go back and give my reminder to ask questions the whole time or drop them in the Q&A because Heather had me covered. So I'm going to be quiet now and let Ashton present. And this is not just a treat for you guys having a deck to watch and getting some tactical tips, but for me to be able to just also watch a webinar rather than speaking the whole time. So I think we're going to kick it off, and thanks, Ashton.
Yeah, no problem. Heather, appreciate the intro. I've talked to this crew, earlier here. I just want this to be very conversational as best as we can within the webinar. So those questions pop through at any time. I'm happy to answer them. We may leave some time for some questions at the end, but let's jump into it. I don't want to talk too much about myself. I've been on webinars before, and I don't like when that part drags on. So I'll just vet myself to you all so that you guys can, feel comfortable with me actually delivering this topic. So I have 11 years of experience in digital marketing and e-commerce. In fact, I actually started in purchase ordering with Caspian, which is formerly eTails. That company is now defunct, but at the time, it was the third largest Amazon reseller at the height of the Amazon boom. That was my first job out of college. So I started at the very bottom. I only answered 100 emails a day, making sure we received all the widgets we ordered for our storefront. That quickly sparked my interest because I had a degree in marketing and business management, and I was like, why are we doing all this? So for the past 11 years, I have had the pleasure of being the director of e-commerce and digital marketing for Pit Boss Grills, parent company Danson's. Also was the media manager for CPG brands like Dial, Schwarzkopf, and a ton of other CPG brands. That was at a little boutique agency here in Arizona. And then when I was working for eTails, I was a salesperson, essentially. And my biggest partnership there was 3M. Built a great partnership with them, ended up being one of the top 3 companies that we worked with there. So I'm coming to you with that wealth of knowledge, all the experience that I've had there. And without further ado, would like to just jump into it because you guys care about the topic. So why are we here? So the purpose of why we are here is to give you confidence and inspiration while maintaining your brand on multiple revenue driving channels. Through this presentation, we're also providing a checklist, and we'll be applying best practices throughout. We're going to do what everybody is here to do: make more sales, get more engagement out of your customers, and gain more loyalty from your customers. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. I don't know if any of y'all read his stuff, but he always likes to start with why. So I like to start with why. And our process throughout this we'll maintain is the why, the what, and the how of navigating this brand identity. What exactly does it look like, and how to execute omni-channel brand consistency. So why? Why are we doing this? Well, 2021 report found that consumers typically use a combination of online and offline channels with an average of 4 to 6 touch points across the purchase journey. Now, that's probably even gone up since then with all the new platforms, et cetera. The report was in 2021, but let's dive in more. The topic still remains very true today. So we'll tackle the perils of brand inconsistency by first diving into the rise of the omni-channel customer, the real world consequences of not having a brand consistent message. And we'll also talk about what this is all bubbling up to, which is social capital. Oop, a little fast on the trigger there. All right, so the modern customer journey. You can see that stat there. 2022 report says that Gen Z actually has about 10 channels that they interact with before they actually purchase a product. Now, all of us purchase products. We're all consumers in our daily life. Now, this is a little bit of an interactive piece here. I would really appreciate it if y'all dropped an emoji or a me or, you know, raise your hand, whatever. How many of you all have had a bad brand experience in your purchasing funnel? As you've gone along and you've interacted with a brand, have you had a point where you've said, nope, I'm not going through with this product, I'm going through with the competitor? Right on, right on, cool. Awesome. Yep, too many times, right? So and follow up in the chat, what frustrates you about a bad shopping journey? What's the most frustrating point that you have through your purchasing process? Bad support, it's common. Cool. Well, I'll continue on. In our digital dependent world where customers interact with brands across so many platforms, maintaining a consistent brand image is of the utmost importance. It's a challenge. So think to yourself, how many different mediums you interact with daily and how many different channels now provide you a conversion opportunity. The conversion journey, you know, just to name a few, now spans social media, D2C, wholesalers, affiliate sites, physical stores, Amazon, and other third-party marketplaces, just to name a few. I just named 7 channels there, plus multiple variations of those channels within those categories. And also now multiply that with hundreds of thousands of touch point opportunities each day for your brand specifically. Each one of those touch point opportunities is an opportunity to build trust, which is kind of mind-boggling if you think about it. So challenges in your messaging, your tone, and your visuals. Not to mention, as we discussed before, each one of these platforms has their own brand guidelines and their own UX that you have to deal with. We'll give some examples there, but there's definitely more that we could talk about. It could be its own webinar if we wanted to, but we're setting the tone here. In my personal experience, I had a car dealership client, 23 touch points before they even walked into the door. Imagine trying to get the attention of somebody 23 times before they actually stepped in and actually did a test drive or just looked at the model. So yeah, you kind of have to imagine for your larger purchasing products, the ones that take a little bit more consideration, your touch points may be double what we're presenting here.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add, Ashton, just regarding the bad customer support. I had an experience where I purchased a CPG item and there was an issue with it, and there was a number to call. There was, you know, Instagram that they were very, you know, active on. So I called the number, left a message, no reply. I left an Instagram DM, no reply. You know, and even a message through the comments, no response, but they were very active. So that was really, they finally did get back to me through email, but it was delayed. And it definitely veered me off to finding a different company to work with, just because that was a terrible customer service experience. I really resonate with that happening, you know, too many times.
Yeah, it's a common thread. Hear it all the time. We'll even dive into that a little bit more about what exactly is so detrimental about that experience. but I'm sure every one of you have had an experience where you may have went and continued to purchase the product or been a brand advocate for them, but you had one bad experience and now you've lost them, right? So here's an example of, we took the 10-step journey of somebody who's looking to purchase a coffee maker. We'll just call her Sarah. So quickly, the stat below, 91% of consumers reported expecting consistent experiences across all channels when interacting with a brand. Now, I know I'm throwing a lot of stats up here. I don't like to just throw up stats and say like, boom, there's the picture, good luck. This is what a modern customer journey looks like on just an 11 touch point process. It's messy intentionally. I've made it messy to just show you how many different times someone can interact with your brand. So Sarah sees an advertisement while scrolling through social media about a coffee maker. She then goes and Googles that brand and goes to their mobile website. She doesn't purchase then, she just plants a seed in her brain. After that, she sees a retargeting ad on Hulu while she's watching her favorite show. Now, afterwards, because it's fresh in her brain, she's going to start researching on YouTube, best coffee makers, product reviews from other influencers in Heather's world. From that point on, she's going to start building questions within her head. She's going to then text her friends and ask, what coffee maker do you have? We all like social proof and we want to be able to purchase a product that we're going to be happy with, and we trust those people around us. So after all that process, after all that deliberation, she's finally in buying mode. My favorite quote that I've thought about since I started marketing is 97% of your customers are actually not in buying mode. So you have to think, you're trying to be top of mind for that 3% of the time that they are in buying mode. So luckily, Sarah has gone through the process and she's ready to buy. She goes and finds the best deal for a coffee maker on Amazon. She then shares her purchase on Amazon or on IG, on her IG story, and has such a great experience that she leaves a review. Now we're a few months into her lifetime value as a customer. She needs some help as she's getting more experience with the coffee. She wants to start doing some better recipes, right? So she needs help heating the coffee up to the level that she needs to get to for that optimal, cup of coffee that she wants. So she actually calls customer service. Customer service sorts her out. She's good. She goes and researches new recipes on websites, potentially your website. That's another touch point for you to bring people back in. And then the last piece there, now that she's had such a good experience, and I'm sure some of you on the line will appreciate this, instead of bogging your customer service down and bogging your phone lines down and having a negative experience and coming at you angry, she has a minor issue with it. All she's going to do is go to the website and look at your blog or any material that you have about troubleshooting this instead of creating a big stink in your customer service approach. That's the effect of maintaining a consistent brand message throughout. Cool. So the real world consequences of not having a consistent brand message. 2022 Yacht Post survey revealed that 73% of customers say inconsistent brand experiences across channels negatively impact their purchase decision. Piggybacking off, 91% of people expect it to be consistent. Now, 73% say that it has a negative effect on that. So 25% of your customers don't care, but 75% of potential customers do. So what does it actually harm? It can lead to brand confusion, it can erode trust, as we've talked about, and ultimately result in lost sales. Each touch point, as I said before, is an opportunity to win or lose that client. And if you lose a client, you might not just be losing them once, you actually might be losing them for life. So we list some pretty bad experiences here. Some of those I'm sure you can relate to personally. You brought that into the discussion as well in the chat. I've seen that. So another question, feel free to answer it or not. How many of you have ate at a national food chain? Everyone, right? Likely everyone here has a branded food chain that has a brand standard that they adhere to. They have a certain set of standards and expectations that you associate with the brand when you think about them. So, for instance, this is an actual picture of a fancy version of McDonald's in Japan that they tested out. But imagine you walk into your corner store McDonald's and now your McDonald's hamburger is $100. Be pretty jarring, right? That's against your expectations of what you're purchasing. It'd also be pretty jarring to go to a Michelin star restaurant and find a bathroom that's very similar to a truck stop bathroom and associate this higher class, this upper crust experience with a bad bathroom experience. That may change your opinion for the rest of your life about that place. Not only are you having a bad experience, you're telling your friends you've had a bad experience. So don't take this for granted. This is actually a very, very important thing to talk about, is maintaining that consistent relationship, that message with the client. So
Ashton,
this all bubble.
sorry to interrupt.
go
We
ahead.
have a quick question here.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's relevant. How can you balance the need for brand consistency with the need to adapt messaging for specific platforms and audiences?
Yeah. I touch on it a little bit later in this conversation, but as of right now, the best thing to say is honestly, do your best. Make sure, and we'll dive into it, make sure your visual brand identity speaks throughout the entire process. Make sure that your messaging, your language is consistent throughout it as best as you can. And then you're going to have to curtail it to each reseller or vendor that you're working with. But the process with them is to try to create a good relationship so that you can maintain your visual brand language as best as you can, given some of those tools that your partners give you. So I'll dive into that a little bit later, but best I could say is stick to your values, stick to your core of what your brand is, and let that show through your opportunities, your placements that you have on all the different channels that you are on. Hopefully that answered the question. So this all leads to social capital. So what is social capital? Well, it's what earns you trust with your customer. Simply put, talk a lot about trust, but what does that breakdown look like? Well, it's your transparency, it's your authenticity, it's your reliability, it's your customer experience, it's your ethical practices, it's your engagement. Some examples of what that looks like: transparency, being open about where your products are sourced. If you're a fan of jewelry, you may be concerned whether those are conflict-free diamonds. That was a big discussion during, I don't know, Kanye West's, Diamonds Are Forever, right? A great song. But the return policies on a lot of companies are usually in the fine print, and that always feels kind of shady, right? So being transparent about how your business operates as best as you can, especially if you're public, but as best as you can, will go a long way. Authenticity. If your brand gives back, prove it. Reliability. Did the product experience meet expectations? Customer experience. Did they actually exceed the expectations? Now, the ethical practices is a very big thing today, obviously, with how much the news rams down social responsibility. Well, what does that look like? Well, a lot of companies have harmful byproducts from just manufacturing. It's just the cost of doing business. Are you actually disposing of those harmful byproducts properly? Would there be an issue if someone found out how you're disposing of those? Now, that's a much more organizational, big conversation, but this is what consumers are looking at. And if you do these things right, then you should be presenting that. That should leak through your brand. That should leak through your conversations with your consumers and all the way down to your customer service support. The last piece, simply put, engage. Brands that actively engage with their customers and actually listen to their feedback and respond to their needs and concerns are more likely to build trust. Remember, it's not about your product. It's not about your bells and whistles of your product. It's about how this product fits into your customer's lifestyle. They care about why I should purchase this product. They don't care that it's the newest, hottest bells and whistle. They care about, is it going to make my life easier, or is it going to do what I want it to do? So moving
One
on.
thing I wanted to add to that,
Yeah.
Ashton, just in terms of when a brand is working with influencers, is that I've found that, you know, influencers that have a pre-existing relationship with the brand, even prior to talking about it, it really does bridge the gap of creating trust and more authenticity in the way that they share about the products. So I think that's just something that kind of adds to the know, like, and trust factors when it comes to people speaking about your brand that are essentially, you know, just representing you and your, you know, what your brand is really about, given through reviews and unboxings and things like that.
Yeah, alignment is huge. And we'll dive more into that, but aligning your brand with all the pieces that you're interacting with, it should just speak your values. So now what does it look like to execute a clear message and that value proposition? What are your values? Well, in order to create a brand that is effective, you're going to have to do things like color theory and thought processes of, you know, what our messaging is going to be about. But the importance of it is that this huge study that Missouri did here said 73% of customers can recognize a brand solely based on its colors. We'll dive more into that, but think of all the brands at this moment that you know that are just there. I'm sorry, my dogs just decided to break into my office. So they were done with being outside. If they bark, I do apologize. I'll remove them. But for now, so the what? In order to build a strong foundation for success, we'll cover the importance of a strong core identity, the importance of consistent messaging, brand storytelling, and visual brand identity. So all together, what does a strong core identity look like? At the heart of brand consistency lies this topic. Do you know your brand's core values and missions? I've just provided a simple framework here. This sets the tone. This is your values, your rules, and your ethics. It's your mission. It's your plan of attack. Now, some of you may relate to this. Some of you probably don't care, but I was a Division I football player. I played for Eastern Washington University. Every single year, we had a different motto, and that motto would get slapped on our playbook at the first meeting that we joined as a team. And our head coach would write it on the board, and it would be in our playbook, and we'd all adhere to these values that you see on the right here. Now, our motto was climb the mountain. It's one step at a time. Take every moment that we are trying to build towards our goal one step at a time. Our values, we were in the public eye. You represent more than yourself now. Be good citizens. So we were always wearing our gear. We'd get in trouble if we were seen at a party and someone took a picture of us, right? Rules, ethics, 5 minutes early to every meeting and don't steal. There are plenty of other rules, but those are the two that to this day I remember. Missions, our mission was to be national champions. We wanted to be the best, but reminder at the top, at the motto, takes one day at a time to do that. One workout, one practice, one treatment. And then the plan of attack was the plays, the regiment, and the culture. So all of that leaked through, right? We had the motto. A lot of companies have mottos. We had our values. A lot of you have why you're in business. You know, you didn't wake up one day and just said like, this is it. This is my business. No, like you've cultivated that experience. Now let that leak through your business. Your rules. Every company has the, company employee guidebook that they hand over, right? Make that simple and easily adaptable. Put your core values up on walls, having the one heartbeat mentality is really what starts the brand. And your mission, those are your goals. Those are, you know, we want to do a 10% revenue increase this month, whatever it looks like, you know, your mission. But the plan of attack is how you're going to execute that. Your strategy, your marketing strategy, your sales strategy, your customer service strategy, all of that. You're laying the groundwork for what that consistent brand experience looks like. And then the last piece there, you know, if we are to believe what Social Baker says here, then a strong internal alignment will achieve a 37% higher employee engagement. Companies that tend to do better are have employees that clearly understand their goals and what your company is trying to achieve. So if one day you wake up and say, hey, let's start selling on Amazon, why? Like, what's the purpose? You know, talk about like that's where your customer is, do the research, measure. So crafting a consistent message. What exactly is brand storytelling? Definition to the left here. The art of crafting narratives that ignite emotions, connect with values, and inspire action, transforming your brand from a product to a source of positive sentiment in your audience's lives. The cartoon, relevant, irrelevant, but kind of based off of what I was talking about is here's a dad reading a story to his children and just throwing product stats at the person. That honestly isn't brand storytelling. That's just telling your customer how great you are, right? And as you can tell, the kids are uninterested. So won't spend too much time on that because that's not the meat of what we're talking about here. But adapting your messaging to different channels while maintaining a consistent brand voice is what's important here. You've defined your core, including your audience. You've embraced the nuances of each channel. We've touched on that. Each channel has their own UX and brand guidelines. You keep your visual brand identity, more on that later, and test even more on that later. So a perfect example of a consistent brand message, what we've been leading to is Scrub Daddy. And Heather's going to follow up with another example that was much more recent. Scrub Daddy was one of our first clients at eTails back when it was Green Cupboards. I have a soft spot in my heart for them because they were awesome for us. We helped them launch. They helped us launch. It was a great experience. They've since grown. Everybody knows who Scrub Daddy is. Here's what their brand looks like today. So this is an ad that they ran. I don't know when. I just saw that it recently came up on Moat. America's favorite sponge, color code your cleaning with Scrub Daddy colors. In my research of what they've been up to lately, they talk about focusing more on Gen Z specifically. They want to target Gen Z more. So what did they do? They started arguably one of the most successful brand TikToks that I've seen. 4 million followers. Now they have a touch of humor on it. If you haven't been to their TikTok, it's hilarious. This doesn't actually play. I just screenshotted it. Sorry, but you can tell with their humor who they're really targeting. They're targeting a younger audience to become brand adopters of their product. Now there's probably 3 or 4 more touch points before I go and say, hey, I'm going to buy a Scrub Daddy sponge versus the dollar store sponge down the road. But let's say I do get to that point. Let's say I do want to purchase Scrub Daddy. The first ad that I saw was talking about color coordination. It's got that light, cheery feeling, happy, really approachable. Now go to their Amazon listing here when I'm in buy mode, and their banner image matches that light feel. And right there is the product that I originally saw an ad for of color coded sponges. So that message, that consistent experience from the point that I saw an ad, I was targeted. I was somebody that needs sponges, to the point where, okay, if I'm going to purchase Scrub Daddy, that messaging has stayed consistent. Light, cheerful, fun, boom, there's a product that I want to buy there. So with that, another great one that is a little bit more relevant and a little bit more current. Heather, take it away with Sarah V.
Yeah, thanks, Ashton. That was such a great example. And as I was thinking about how, omni-channel marketing and influencer marketing can be used together, I think that the CeraVe CeraVe, you know, Super Bowl spot that maybe a lot of you have seen. You know, there was a lot to it. And I think this is a great example of how influencer marketing and social marketing really was at its finest here. Well before the spot actually played, this was a full 3-week campaign. And the first touch point was they got some TikTok influencer to do some kind of like spotting of Michael Cera in a pharmacy, like putting his stickers on all of the lotion bottles, and that went viral. So it's like, hold on, what's going on here? And so they kind of built this whole like
Heather,
memorable.
can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
So, I did not see this ad because I did not watch the Super Bowl this year because I was at Mardi Gras celebrating my birthday. But was that like, was that orchestrated? Did an influencer actually spot Michael Cera putting stickers, or was that all orchestrated? Either way, it's amazing, but was he just
Yeah.
really doing that?
Yeah, this was, this is really was a part of the campaign.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was meant to be seen like, oh, that's really Michael Cera in, CVS or whatever, and her, just spotting him out of nowhere. But it really was a setup, it was all aligned seamlessly through this very strategic approach of just creating buzz before the actual spot came out. And then in the middle here, like the top, I don't know if you can see, but CeraVe basically, sent a bunch of packages to all influencers, a lot of influencers on TikTok, and they're doing their unboxing. And this is like, hold on, everyone's like confused, and it's creating confusion. Like, did Michael Cera, and by the way, Jess, I didn't watch the Super Bowl. So I didn't know about, I watched this afterwards. And if you haven't seen the commercial, I personally think it's just very funny. And it took me a minute to put all this together. But just to show you that there was a lot of touch points that were put in before the actual spot ran, and even after. So they sent a bunch of their products and tried to create some confusion around like, hold on, is Michael Cera the founder of CeraVe? Like, no one knew this. Really, he's not. This is developed by dermatologists. So in the middle, you probably can't see that, but that is a post coming from CeraVe to help clarify any confusion around Michael Cera's, relationship to CeraVe. And that even in of itself is all planned out. It's all planned. It's like, and, it created a lot of hype. And then the actual spot came out, and I think it was one of the most well done, and not trying too hard in terms of like getting a bunch of celebrities on board. It was just like very simple, but also very like clever. And I feel like, when it comes to influencer marketing, leaning on the creativity is really what brings people kind of bringing into like cultural relevance. And I might just say, prior to all of this, this was not even CeraVe's idea. This was actually something that was joked about a couple years before about Michael Cera. Like, people online were just like joking, like, does Michael Cera have any relationship to CeraVe? And so they used social listening to create a play on this. And this is really where all of that stemmed from to begin with. So I think that's a really important part to just kind of think about, is like, are you listening to your community? Are you listening to what's going on in social? Because it can really create a lot of great ideas and a great spin-off of what happened here. And then as you can see on the right are just some screenshots from how their cohesive marketing strategy also is on Amazon. It's on their website. It's was on like social media and everywhere. So this is just a great example of how these two things are integrated and can really create not just a commercial, but an actual like like a journey, a story, and an experience that lasts more than 30 seconds. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'll pass it to you, Ashton.
Absolutely. No, awesome. Great. Great insight there. Everybody, I laughed at that one. That was great. I did watch the Super Bowl. It was hilarious. And now it's awesome to see that if I wanted, I actually did purchase CeraVe recently. I ran out of lotion. If you're from Arizona, you know that you just have to moisturize 24/7. So currently going through my own CeraVe here. Visual brand identity. Simply put, here's some do's and some don'ts when approaching this. Know your audience, stay consistent, focus on simplicity. Very simple approach to that. Like Heather said, not a ton of different spokespeople, just one, Michael Cera. Staying consistent. We saw on both of those brand examples that the theme, the messaging, the coloring, everything stayed consistent. Now, where it changed was how they presented that on social media, how they did it on a banner ad or the first touch point. And then ultimately, when you got to Amazon, you saw that they had a sponsored placement at the top or their brand page ultimately. Think of all the different ways that you can curtail that messaging based off of the tools that you have, specifically with Amazon. I am an old Amazon guy previously. I need to brush up a little bit more on what exactly is all out there for a seller today. But what I will say is I remember A+ listings being key. Those A+ listings, those sponsored ads, everything, the things that actually work to ultimately convert a customer are those placements that get in front of the person and bring back that recall real quick. Right at the top, you've got Michael Cera on top of the CeraVe Amazon storefront.
I'm going to add really quickly to that list that you just gave,
Yeah,
Ashton, because it's something that I have been pushing and promoting now for 3 years, and I'm still
yeah.
waiting for it to fully catch on with everyone. A new tool that may not be on your Amazon radar is Amazon Posts, and that's
Okay.
Amazon's answer to social. And so it is very similar to Instagram. For those of you who aren't using it, for those of you who have heard me talk before, you might be sick of hearing about it. But that's, that's another tool that you can use on Amazon for everything we're talking about here today. I don't know, Heather, you may have a different opinion on this. You may tell me that they should do it differently. Something we suggest for those of you who are just trying to get started. You can just reuse that Instagram content on Amazon as your post. I think that that's helpful for anyone who doesn't have a huge team, who doesn't have a ton of time to devote to this, but keeping that consistency while at least getting something posted is not a bad idea.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
completely agree. And yeah, I just wanted to add that, I think visibility, like in any way, like being visible and representing your brand, wherever you want to start, if you haven't started more, I think that's a great way to do it. Yeah, as Amazon posts.
Yeah. Talking about the don'ts, don't follow trends blindly. Don't try to recreate Michael Cera's experience if that's not your audience. You still have to focus on your audience. So it may be great to do TikTok. But Heather has some experience in working with gray hair toner shampoo. Correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but like the focus, the audience isn't necessarily on TikTok. That's not their first social media platform that they go to. So don't just rush into that experience and say, we have to be on TikTok. Curtail your message, curtail where your audience is. They're the ones that are ultimately purchasing your product at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll just add to that, Ashton, is finding where your people are has been really key. And in terms of the brand that I worked with, which was a hair care brand, we found a lot of this existing international community on Instagram that we were able to tap into. And they weren't on TikTok. Some of them are, but it seemed to be like that was their niche, and that was where people felt the most comfortable, and that was where that community existed. So if you're able to tap into existing communities, you'll find these really incredible little corners of the world that you never knew existed, that are these huge subcultures, so it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and if you haven't read Heather's blog that just went live for AO2, do so. We talk a lot about this, specifically about aligning your influencers. And this goes with everything, your platform, everything. Align it with your audience. Find where your people are, like Heather said. So
Ashton.
quick little plug. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to plug that as well. I'm glad you mentioned it. I think we'll try and grab that link real quick and share it here in the chat. So you
Yeah.
guys look out for that. So you can take a look at that blog, because there was some really great content in there. Also,
Yeah.
really quickly wanted to just remind all of our, there it is. The link is in the chat for anybody who wants to check that out. Remind everyone that's here watching. I've seen a couple of new people drop in. We are taking questions throughout the session. We have probably about 10 more minutes of presentation. So make sure you get your questions in now. If you have them, we want to make sure to get all of those answered before we wrap things up.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, I know, this is such a rich topic that dives into analytics after this, that dives into execution and plans over that. We've talked with Jess before, maybe we expand on this topic a little bit more, but as for now, we just want to set the tone and show you some good brands that are doing it well to inspire it. And we're going to give you some resources as well at the end of the discussion here, so that you can follow up and see how you are measuring up against a consistent brand identity. So I'll go through these quickly. Examples of do's and don'ts, as we just discussed before, just quickly. Target, right? Visual brand identity on high. You see their ads on around Christmas time, around the holiday time period. That message is consistent throughout. You go to their website, you interact with their ads, you see the big red target or white target, depending on where it's being shown. But it just recalls, and everybody can relate to that brand ultimately because they just see it so much. Here, I know it's probably hard to see. I do apologize if you're looking at a smaller screen, but that store in the middle there, I don't even have to show you the logo. You know exactly who that is. That's Apple, right? Their visual brand identity is very clean. Their products are clean, user-friendly. Go to their store. Their store is exactly that messaging. Walmart, interesting play here. They actually rebranded to focus more on millennials. They approached a new color scheme. I don't know if you all remember Walmart when it was Wall Star Mart, and rollback prices was their big approach, and etc. Well, because they're going after the millennials that have a different view of themselves, they're going after those that are looking to stretch their dollar further. So much more approachable color scheme, much more approachable aesthetics for Walmart, and a much more approachable slogan: save money, live better. Now your don'ts, quickly through these. This is actually Uber. If you don't remember, that logo is Uber. That was the second logo that they rolled out. I, included with probably millions of others, was pretty frustrated with the fact that they changed the logo to that, because every time I wanted to get a ride from somewhere, I had to spend an extra 5 seconds, not a big deal, but trying to find this app because they changed it. People were actually upset that they dropped the U. Second piece there, YouTube not being very aware of like what their channel is used for, removing the dislike button on their brand overall. So much so that they brought it back, but not in the way that it shows like 70,000 people disliked your video. But we as a society love to judge whether something's good or not for the society. By removing that, you kind of took away from what people went to YouTube for. The second piece is the Peloton one. This was big. It was all over the news over how out of touch Peloton was with this. Essentially, people were upset that it made the wife seem insecure about her image and only focused on her image, and her husband was actually the cause of that insecurity. So just out of touch with their people. Tips. You can read these here. Won't spend too much time on these, but how to approach a brand guideline. Start with the fundamentals. create clear and concise guidelines, easy access and training. Make sure that everybody has access to your brand guidelines. That way your message is consistent throughout, because you have to delegate. If you're a business owner on this conversation right now, you want to go and do the things that you're good at. You want to make sure that your tone, your values, your messages that you've installed are being handled by the people that do the work. How to maintain it, make sure all stakeholders have access, as I've mentioned. Be available and prepared to educate on application. Don't get frustrated when somebody says like, how am I supposed to do this, etc. Like, it's an opportunity to like reaffirm your values in that meeting. The last piece I'll say there is be open to updates and monitor the process. I kind of skipped over a don't there, where it's don't be afraid to evolve. It kind of contradicts what we said before of like, don't go after what's flashy, but also don't be afraid to evolve. If your business needs to change, my least favorite saying is, well, this is the way that it's always worked. One of my favorite sayings is, if you hate change, you're going to be afraid of being irrelevant even more. So keep that in mind. And as marketers, test and test again. Here's an opportunity for us to drop another link in the chat there. It's Hulu's brand guidelines, which are actually really, really good. Now, this is more customer facing, likely in their brand department as well. But additionally to that, it's a PDF. Hopefully we can pull that up. I apologize there if not. But just look up Hulu brand guidelines. You should be able to find it. That would tack on to an employee handbook on the back of it. So it's a great opportunity to see a very, very good brand and just how consistent their messaging is throughout. So how the last piece, I know we're coming up on time. So this piece is something that could probably spend much more time on, but we are strapped for time. How? Through personalization and automation, you can increase your ROI by 5 to 8 times. So by these strategies, using marketing optimization and personalization, data-driven optimizations, and brand management and team effort collaboration, that's how you create the seamless experience. From that point, you've installed all your content, you've installed all the different pieces, you've got a tool that allows you to post multiple times. I like to approach posting as batch work. Take the raw asset, curtail it to each one of your platforms overall, and use an automated tool to post all those. Everybody may be familiar with it or have experienced it, but automation really does help. And all of us can think of tools that we've been on a sales call and said like, okay, that'd be great, etc. Prices vary up and down, but ultimately what you need is something that pushes an API from a script from one place to another. You need that automation to go through your internal own channels. So if you have an email provider, make sure that you are grabbing their name and putting that in your emails. And then you can use tools like HubSpot in order to manage that entire CRM and look at the data and see where your highest engaged customers are, and look through all that data of who's going to be the best person to give a special offer to. Who are you going to survey? What did they like? What do they want to change? And ultimately just create a very, very personal experience, because you're trying to squeeze out as much lifetime value out of these customers. Oh, and then the middle piece, we've talked about it. Cooperate and find opportunities to collaborate with your retail partners. We've named some on Amazon. In my past experience with PitBoss, spent many, many meetings with Lowe's, rolling out a lot of their new third-party marketplace offerings that they had. They had an A+ equivalent. So we went with it. We worked with them. We were on the phone with them all the time. How do we get our banner up there? How do we get our logo up there? What's the best way? Like, collaborate with your partners and your vendors. Data-driven optimization, another thing that we could talk about for a lot, but are you tracking your brand mentions, sentiments, and engagement levels? Simply put, turn your web analytics and social media insights into actual actionable data. how could your channel be doing better? What do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? There's key metrics to all of these, another topic for another time, but bringing it back to that personalization, that's where you're able to find where your loyal customers are, what type of promotions work, and where are some first to market opportunities for new product that you want to roll out. Who better to test your new product on than the people that are your brand fans? The last piece that I'll talk about this, and it's a hill I'll die on, A/B testing gets thrown out there like crazy. Everybody loves to say, oh, just A/B test it. Well, there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. Don't shotgun approach an A/B test. That's the worst way that you can do it, because then you end up muddling the data that you're getting back. Make sure you're testing one creative variable per iteration, and you can segment those amongst many audience dimensions, but don't get carried away because it dilutes your overall spend and resources, and it significantly drops the value of the data that you're receiving. So last slide for the actual topic here. What does this all mean? Like, why have we had this conversation? How do we go through this? What does it take to do this? Well, it starts with a solid understanding throughout the organization, again, of those values, missions, and plan of attack. Alignment. Once you've set that, get everybody on board and align. And the last piece is track it, test it, measure twice, cut once, quantify and qualify your efforts in each department. So now what? This is an opportunity for you to download our brand identity checklist at our website /free checklist. You can apply it to your brand, set a plan of attack, measure your success with it. Ultimately, you'll have to provide the numbers and stuff of what is your success, but it's a good place to start. It gives you a scoring. If you score like 50% out of it, probably need some help with your brand, right? Just want to plant the seed, and hopefully from this whole presentation that you've taken, that there is an opportunity to get more customers, increase that conversion rate, increase your engagement by maintaining a solid and consistent brand voice throughout the entire process. So thank you.
That was great. And I think that's a really great takeaway. So I just want to remind everyone, again, when we end this, which is happening in about 2 minutes,
Yep.
those links will all go away. So make sure you jump in the chat, grab the link for the blog, grab the 2 takeaways, so that you have, and I think we just got a consolidated list there to make it easy for you in the chat. Grab all those links so you have them when you leave us here. Take down the contact information here, or you can always contact us. You know how to get in touch with one of us. You joined either through our promotion or through Ashton and Heather's promotion of the event. So, you know, reach out if you have additional questions. I know there are a number of different ways that we could expand on all of the things that were talked about today. So we'd love your feedback. What do you want to hear more about? So yeah, thank you to Ashton. Thank you to Heather. Any last remarks before we close this out?
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone listening. We've had a captive audience, and I'm really grateful that we could be here. Ashton, it was so much rich information, and yeah, just appreciate how organized Jess and AO2 management has been. It's been incredible partnering on this webinar together, and I just really appreciate the opportunity to share, you know, all the information that we've gathered as we work with clients. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And you look forward to doing another one of these.
And one other quick note, since we shared the blog here, I do want to let everyone know we will have another blog coming from Heather. She has agreed to partner with us on one more follow-up blog, so look out for that. And if you specifically want to be alerted when that comes out, let us know as well. But otherwise, just keep eyes on our blog page, AO2 Management's blog page, and you will find that as soon as we drop it within the next couple of weeks. So thanks again to everyone. I think we'll probably jump off here pretty quick, but I'll leave the webinar open for just another minute or 2 to make sure you can grab those links.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jess.
everyone.